Hi, this is Michael P. Coleman, Content Director for Brother Be Well. Thanking you for checking out this series, this trauma and healing series brought to you by Blue Shield of California's Blue Sky Initiative.
This is a vicious cycle. There has been many conversations regarding poverty and how one is expected to follow that cycle because of where they came from and how they were raised and their socioeconomic status. There's so many different things that play into come into play. Their beside the SES, their immigration status. Both Mustafa's and myself are immigrants. I am now a citizen, and I have been since I arrived here to the US. But it has always been a struggle to find your identity here in the US. And I'm sure Mustafa, you and I and Justin can talk more about it. But it's been very dramatic. And Justin mentioned something about episodic memory. I believe, and I have some training in psychology as well, actually was a mental health advocate for Cal Voices, formerly known as Northern Mental Health California. And I'm on their board director. So we discuss a lot of these cases as well as the impact that mental health has on our overall well-being. And I think, with not only witnessing the trauma, but if you experience a trauma yourself, there is, and I mean, I am not qualified to make diagnosis, even though I am a clinician. I am not a psychiatrist, so I would never make a diagnosis. But there's a bit of PTSD there. There's trauma that need to be healed. And it certainly can have very significant impact on your mental health and your overall well-being. And the only people who can help you get through that would be a licensed counselor or therapist. But I think that the main goal for this session is just to have you acknowledge it. And then, because that's the first step for any resolution, is to acknowledge that there is an issue and then go on forward. But Mustafa, I think you already have that insight into your own trauma. And I am sorry you went through all that. And I would love to hear more about it and understand from your perspective the thing that you are going through and went through and how it impacts you.
So back to the lineage theory here. My grandpa from my dad's side, he was also abusive to him. He was very abusive. He wasn't really a father figure to him. He never was really a father figure, and he never really learned anything from my grandpa. He learned most of these things from the military. And he always yells a lot, and he's always angry, and he wants you to do things his way and not your way. And he always yells at you and tries to be strict. And I understand where he's coming from, because the problem is he never had a father figure and how to be a good role model or what to do as a father figure. So he never really had a good start to begin with. He always had a rough life. My mother also had a rough life, as her dad died at a young age of 30. And she didn't really have a father figure as well. She had his mother as a figure. She also died after she got married shortly. So I never saw my grandparents. And instead of having a pity party and being very sad in the corner, we tried to work through our problems and try to solve them over the years. So we tried to walk away from our wounds, and we tried to let them heal by themselves. We usually try to work not only just focusing on the problem, but focusing around it, seeing the big picture, and not only focusing, oh, my dad died, I should be crying in the corner all day long, every day for the rest of my life.
Mm.
So what I learned from my parents, and the biggest thing I learned from them, and it was very, very impactful, is when you see hardship, always try to fix it and walk through it, because you will get stronger and improve. And every time you have a hardship, you'll be a little stronger.
Yeah, you bring up a good point, Mustafa. I interpret that as facing adversity fearlessly. Because you begin to become what you overcome. Those things, those types of adversity that we're faced with, and as soon as we overcome them, you do become stronger. You become wiser. You become more intelligent about how you're going to approach life and not fall into the victimhood of our circumstances and not letting that define us. And I feel like if it wasn't for the adversity that I've went through, and I feel like that's congruent with Patrick and you, Mustafa, that if it wasn't for those types of adversity, maybe we wouldn't have wanted to succeed so much, or wanted to fight back against the odds that stacked up against us. So it's actually a choice to use those hardships as fuel, and not as something that weighs us down and keeps us, in the ground about it. So this very empowering, just speaking with you both about it. Mustafa, you bring up very good points. And, I think it's incredible what you've been able to do, Patrick Ma, and, you're just getting started yourself. I only hear the great things about you, but just being in your presence on this chat is incredible. It's radiant, and I could feel it through the computer. So, I mean, we are here to share our trauma. We are here to heal. And I like that you said, Patrick, I myself have been in therapy. Talk therapy is how I've been able to confront some of the trauma and the psychological wounds that I've had. So that was the first step, is acknowledging it, getting into therapy, and then now sharing my experience with you guys and the world beyond that.
Yeah. I feel like sometimes I make inappropriate joke, but I think it is appropriate in this setting. The radiating thing that you think is a lot of lighting, so I have really good lighting in my room. But I do want to address what Mustafa mentioned. So what you are referring to is grit, or what we call, we also known as resiliency. And there actually have been studies done for children who have adverse childhood events, or ACE, so it's ACE, adverse childhood events. They found that a majority of children who experience trauma when they were younger develop resiliency, which is great because it helps you power through life, just like Justin mentioned. It's your fuel for success. However, that does come at a cost. And I want to bring up that cost because it's important to acknowledge this issue and bring it up to the surface. And we can certainly discuss about it during this forum because I think it's appropriate. One thing is that some people are so resilient that sometimes they forget to pause. It's very easy to just go and get things done and be the go-getter that you are. But, without acknowledging your trauma, without letting them heal, without addressing them directly, it's very easy for people to forget or try to suppress that they have a trauma in their life. And a lot of time, children who experience adverse childhood event develop some sort of mental illness or mental health conditions. And it's not uncommon. 1 in 4 adults in the US has a mental illness or will develop a mental illness at some point in their life. That's a statistic fact. So I want to bring that up because, as much as I'm happy and just thrilled to see how resilient you are, speaking about your own trauma, I want you to allow yourself to hold space for yourself, to acknowledge the trauma and let it heal not just by letting time pass by without addressing it, but by working to it, and just like Justin mentioned, face it fearlessly and really allow yourself to be vulnerable and addressing the issue. The second point I want to bring up regarding resiliency is, you know, I'm not sure if it's a cultural thing, but just from observation that I make over the year, especially being a motivational speaker for over 8 to 10 years for the state of California, a lot of us who experience trauma, who are resilient and, you know, go into battles and fight our own fights, because, you know, as myself, just speaking from my own experience, as an immigrant, as a gay man, as someone who used to have a very low socioeconomic status, who came from a third world country, who living with depressions, there's just so many factors that play against me. And it's easy to develop this wall again around you, and also develop this mentality of having what they call having your douche up at all time. I have been given feedback by professionals in my field, by really close friends. It's not a bad thing to having your douche up and be assertive, but it's also very easy for people like us who have trauma in our life to have the douche up and to want to pick a fight every single time that we encounter difficulty or challenges without looking at the big pictures. So that's a point that I want to bring up, because it can definitely interfere with your career path, whatever you choose you want to do later on. But I'm glad that, Mustafa, you brought up that you looking at, you know, all of your events in your life in the big pictures. I'm glad you're doing that, because otherwise it's very easy to fall into this cycle of having your douche up and want to fight every single time, because you have been fighting your entire life for every single thing that you have, and you have to fight to survive and fight to, you know, deal with all the adversity that you have in your life. So those are important notes that I want to bring up.